So our next speaker is Eimear Ginn from Offaly County Council. Offaly County Council was one of the first pilots of the Open Library Innovative Service Model in Ireland, and looking forward to hearing all about that. So Eimear, over to you.
Hello there, Nolene. Thanks very much for that introduction. I'm just wondering, can you hear me there?
Yes, we can, Eimear.
That's great. Thank you. Sorry now. I think technical gremlins have affected us all the last couple of days. But I would just like to say good morning to everybody, especially obviously to Minister O'Brien, our NOAC Chair Michael McCarthy, and CCM Chair Tim Lucy. Also, good morning to our colleagues from NOAC, LGMA and the CCMA generally, and of course to local authority colleagues around the country. I'm delighted to be here today to talk on the My Open Library Service, a good practice in accessible services at Offaly libraries, with a nod to colleagues around the country who have recently embarked on their own library journeys. I hope this presentation will offer an insight into the evolving Offaly experiences of this innovative service and give you all a sense perhaps of the possibilities that it offers our communities. So just to start really, and to kick things off, I suppose you may or may not know that My Open Library Services offer extended opening hours to library members on a self-service basis from 8 AM to 10 PM, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Now, and apologies, I am hitting a problem moving on to the next slide myself. I don't know if perhaps you could confirm for me, Nolene, if that has switched over.
It has. Eimear, I think you're actually not in presenter mode, so we can see the slides at the side. So if you could just go down to the little TV at the bottom. Yeah.
No problem.
You're moving forward now. Thank you. Carry on.
Eureka. Thank you very much. So Offaly County Library Service undertook one of the first library pilots of this service model in Ireland in late 2014, and now offers My Open Library Services in Banagher, Ferban and Tullamore libraries. You can see images of all three buildings there featured in this slide. And just to note, I suppose all three of these libraries possess good street frontage and central locations. Many of you might be familiar with Tullamore Library as our flagship library in the county town. Banagher and Ferban are smaller but perfectly formed libraries in more rural locations. A full range of services are available in all three libraries, including borrowing and meeting facilities, study spaces and ICT. Users enjoy access to the library at times that suit them best, and the library is strengthened by these facilities as a focal point for community engagement. In delving into the origin story, I suppose, of the My Open Library Services in Offaly and indeed Ireland, we must acknowledge that this service, which was known as Open Libraries, was firstly operational in Denmark since 2014. The concept then spread to the Nordic countries since 2010 and more recently to the UK, Germany, the Netherlands, etc. Many of us perhaps have also experienced this service in academic libraries, albeit it operates slightly differently with some security presences in place. I suppose it's worth noting that, really Offaly County Council were and are committed to positioning our libraries at the heart of communities and acknowledging the value of our libraries as free, accessible and democratic spaces that can catalyse delivery of shared community goals. The My Open Library Service provides space, collections, technology and staff expertise in support of lifelong learning and information and literacy provision, e-citizenship and cultural and community engagement. The recognised challenge at that time was how to bring these ideals or this ideal library service to our users and importantly non-users in a way that might suit them. So Offaly County Library Service and Offaly County Council took that leap of faith and embraced a proof of concept exercise of MOL, as we fondly call it here, and led out on early pilots in Banagher and Tullamore libraries. It's probably a good time to mention, full disclosure here, that I'm only with Offaly Library Service myself since 2019, and these innovative service changes were led out by Offaly's previous county librarian, Mary Stewart and her team. And there is Mary there. So I suppose to get to brass tacks, just for those who may not be aware, what is the My Open Library Service? It's a library which has staffed hours, but also unstaffed hours, and operates every day from 8 to 10. Access is by way of a card and PIN. Users sign up to additional set of user terms and conditions with particular regard to health and safety and security. Users of this service must be aged 16 and over, although initially at pilot stage it was for 18 years and over. This changed in 2016, and the age threshold now with parental consent is 16 plus. This service is operated on a fully self-service basis and provides all the services mentioned earlier. You'll notice from the picture here, this is actually a picture of the mall launch in Banagher Library in 2015, and a very successful day that was too. So just to kind of identify why the service is so popular, we have found that mall has just been really embraced by our users here in Offaly. It provides the community with the freedom and flexibility to access at times that suit them. It very much is taken up by commuters, and it delivers the library as the third space, which is really most important in the times we're in. It offers a free civic space in the community. And you can see from that photograph there, we fondly, and our users fondly, call the front room of Tullamore Library as the living room in the square. The library itself in Tullamore particularly, but also in the smaller branches, is used for outreach and training by key partners, local development partnerships, and it gives our library staff a different avenue to reach out to sections of the community that we may not normally have been able to connect with. We have found that the self-service technology provides opportunities to enhance our library and its role in the community. So really, technology is an enabler and enhancer of the quality of life services. So just for the brass tacks of using the mall service, it's a Scandinavian phrase really springs to mind on this, giving the keys to the building to the community. And practically, what did that mean for us? You can scan with your library card into the library. You enter a 4-digit unique PIN number and it's all authenticated. The library doors open automatically. You can walk into the building and remain by the door until it's closed. You use the self-service technology in the building with your card access as well. So for computer access, printing, scanning, book returns and issues. So there's a high level of self-service technology throughout the whole facility. It wouldn't be, honest to say that there weren't challenges in delivering this service, and indeed there were. However, the challenges were addressed, and I think that's really important to note. It took a whole council approach, and I've been most impressed by this service since I've come to Offaly, in that it really does take a village to deliver such an innovative change of direction. There were staff and indeed some public concerns around fear of antisocial behaviour and vandalism, child protections, feeling of being safe. I have to say, though, probably our most regular problem, and it was a challenge that was addressed, was tailgating, where people were trying to come into the library on the back of somebody else's card. And this was very much addressed through user education and inductions. Offaly Library involved all key stakeholders, including our health and safety officer, fire officer, facilities management services and our IT section, to produce robust risk assessments and health and safety plans so that this service could be delivered in a safe and secure manner, and also in a welcoming manner, which I think is very important to say, that the service only works as well as it does because people are very comfortable with its delivery. So who uses this service? Students, commuters, families, job seekers, home workers, and this is even before pandemic times. We noticed a marked increase in home workers in the last number of years for My Open Library services. Wi-Fi use obviously is most important. Many people are using our library in mall hours to access free, reliable Wi-Fi services. It's also used in that we have small meeting rooms available in the 3 library buildings for book clubs, knitting groups and study groups. We also have in recent times a Dungeons and Dragons role play group who make good use of our meeting room in Tullamore Library. So it just shows you some of the different ways that, you know, social inclusion can be embraced and different users can come into the library environment through MAL. You can see a photograph there of my predecessor, Mary Stewart, with the 1000th My Open Library member who was being presented with a small token at the time. So the Offaly experience has really overall been very beneficial, and I've listed some of the benefits here on this slide. It has certainly revitalised our smaller communities. It's been notable with increased activity in libraries in both Banagher and Ferban. They're central locations for all 3 libraries, and they are the only indoor lighted non-commercial spaces with public access operating in those towns. They're also cultural centres for the communities and offer plenty of civic opportunity. With plenty of public access PC, free Wi-Fi, etc. The opportunities for lifelong learning are key, and it also helps reduce the digital divide in rural Ireland. So Offaly's usage and experience has been very positive. Over the last 6 years, we have seen an increase of almost 85% in opening hours in Banagher and Ferban libraries, and an increase of 50% in our opening hours in Tullamore Library. We've had significant increases in usage. 4,162 users have signed up for MAL services since its inception, and oftentimes we find that members are willing to travel throughout the county to attend a MAL library. We've had 150,000 plus MAL visits since January 2015, and probably not surprisingly, we often find the June bank holiday weekend before exam times in normal time, the Christmas period and the Easter bank holiday weekend are all big footfall dates. This increase in usage demonstrates how the library has adapted to the changes of how people work and approach education. This slide, everyone loves a chart or a graph, and I think this one gives us some, a really nice picture of how everything's going in the right direction for us here in Offaly with MAL statistics. In 2015, we had 15,000 odd visits in MAL hours. In 2019, that had grown to 39,671. And just to put that in the context, in the context of the NOAC indicators, in Offaly libraries, we would have had visits to libraries of 267,000 in 2019, as per our automatic door counts. But of that figure, 39, almost 40,000 were MAL visits outside of traditional opening hours. So I think that's a very significant point. Unfortunately, as we all know, in 2010, MAL services were suspended there around the 13th of March. So we've only had 8,000 odd visits in the first couple of months of this year, in line with government health and safety guidelines. But we do look forward to returning to a full service. I suppose from an Offaly perspective, the real good news story for us and the most recent success is visible in the Ferban library, and you can see statistics there about our increases. We saw a 27% increase in stock issues and a 23% increase in MAL visits for Ferban in their first year of opening. Visitor numbers were over 10,000 in the period. We have a structured roadmap really for growing the MAL services in Offaly ahead, and you'll just see some of the target areas that we look at there. But we have noted the following trends: that self-print and scanning services continue to be in very high demand, and more bookable study and meeting space is required. Phone and laptop charging docks are also required, and we've recently piloted booking software for our Browse by Appointment services, which we will modify to include induction appointments now in a more structured way in the future. Something that I've been most impressed by is the My Open Library service as a space for social inclusion, and Offaly Libraries in the MAL iteration has proved itself more important than ever in this regard. 5 magic tables or Tober taffels were made available in the My Open Library buildings in Offaly earlier this year. In 2019, that was our last full year of MAL services, but these magic tables were installed in early 2020 for those with dementia and ASD. Being active for only a short time before the lockdown, they were still got a lot of queries and were very popular. So we expect them to be widely used when we come back into full operation. The introduction as well of laptops, public access PCs, tablets and free Wi-Fi have all helped attract people into these libraries. The COVID-19 pandemic has undoubtedly presented lots of new challenges for our service, but user requests for both MAL and traditional library offerings remain high, as I'm sure is the case around the country. So kind of looking forward now at MAL and the COVID-19 context, we've recognised that some of our library technology will not meet future community needs, and we've used this time to re-examine our provision and research improvements and add-ons. We're using a small part of the Small Scale Capital Works grant from the Department of Rural and Community Development to align the design of some of our library spaces with library strategy. We're progressing the installation of people counting, so occupancy software, and you'll see an image there to the upper right of this slide showing the kind of messaging that will display to help with social distancing in what will be a new world. We did find that our transition to contact and collect services and our browse by appointment services were very much easier for people who had embraced our MAL technologies prior to this. So that was kind of an interesting benefit from the service as well. We are now looking at new responsive technology, as I say, including this occupancy software, but also apps, contactless transaction software, and we're looking to create a safer environment with socially distant study spaces and event venues in the future. So modifications and additions such as these should ensure positive progress in MAL services in Offaly for the years ahead in what is undoubtedly going to be a changed library environment in the pandemic era. So no doubt this story so far is not over, as we plan to grow MAL services in Offaly when it is safe to do so. Libraries worldwide have embraced these challenges in the current climate and pivoted services towards meeting this new user need and expectation. I anticipate that this will also follow through into My Open Library services and look forward to developing it further into this most accessible service model for our citizens. I'd like to thank you for your time and thank you for being invited to speak on the My Open Library service, and would be happy to take questions later at the appropriate time.